In 2017, a young woman named Chloe Ayling was kidnapped while abroad. Yet just 6 days later, she calmly walked into a consulate, claiming she had been released. This bizarre kidnapping case quickly garnered national attention, and with each step of the investigation, the mystery only deepened. In today's episode, we'll delve into the intricate details of this case, and I urge you to pay close attention because in the end, I want to know your thoughts. Chloe Ayling was born on June 14, 1997, in Coulsdon, a small town south of London, England. She always lived with her mother in a humble neighbourhood, far from the bustling city, and always had a dream to be a model. In 2014, when she turned 17, she began working as a photo model. Shortly before turning 18, Chloe discovered she was pregnant, which she shared with her boyfriend Connor Keyes. Her son, Ashton, was born in November 2015. Despite the challenges of motherhood, Chloe continued to pursue her modelling career. At that time, Connor, who was unemployed, took care of their son while she focused on her work, aiming for an international career. In 2016, she was discovered by the Supermodel Agency, one of the biggest in the UK at the time and which belonged to millionaire Phil Green. He believed so much in her potential that he became her direct agent, warming up the British market with the model's face, until soon she began to be hired for small but international extra jobs. He managed her schedule and handled all contractual matters, including negotiating fees. In March 2017, Phil received an email from a man called Andre Lazio, a photographer, who wanted to hire Chloe for a photo shoot in Paris. He offered an advance of £2,000 of the final agreed fee. He'd been hired by an agency seeking models for a motorcycle-themed shoot and believed Chloe was the perfect fit. He scheduled the session for the following month, April. However, on the scheduled day, when Chloe was already in Paris, Andre called Phil to cancel the job. He claimed that when he arrived at the studio to prepare everything for the photos, he found the place ransacked. All their equipment had been stolen and what remained was damaged. Andre informed him that he would need a good amount of time to recover, but that he would try to sublet some studios and equipment to carry out the work that he already had signed contracts for. She returned to London. Days later, Andre called again, saying he had lost the motorcycle shoot contract but had secured a new job and wanted to invite her. Since he had already paid £2,000, he suggested using that credit for a new session in Milan 3 months later on July 11th. On July 10th, Chloe flew to Milan. However, on July 11th, the day of the shoot, she went completely incommunicado. Her mother, Beata Ayling, was the first to notice her daughter's unsettling silence. Text messages, calls, and social media messages went unanswered and unread. Beata reached out to Phil, who also tried contacting Chloe and Andre, but received no response. On the 12th, she was supposed to return to London, but around 10 a.m, Phil received a terrifying email. Chloe had been kidnapped. The message demanded a ransom of $300,000 for her release. It mentioned the names of 3 businessmen who could pay that amount and said that if the ransom was not paid within 5 days, she would be auctioned off on the dark web to a Russian mafia involved in buying and selling sex slaves. "We've got Chloe Ayling. We are Black Death Group. It is of supreme interest that you raise money. You should contact Beep or she will be sold at auction on Sunday and handed to the Russian mafia. We require you to come up with an offer by Sunday or she will be placed for auction." Phil immediately called Beata to inform her of the alarming news, then contacted the British consulate in Milan. He provided all the information he had: Andre's phone number, the address of Chloe's hotel, the location of the photo shoot, and the email from the kidnapper. The Italian police quickly launched an investigation. That same day, the Sun newspaper received an email about the kidnapping, which was a strange thing, because typically kidnappers avoid media attention, but in any case, that email contained very important information. The email contained instructions for a negotiation, and attached was a screenshot of an internet page that showed a cut link at the top, labelled traffic, and below information that appeared to be a dark web listing. Did you know Chloe Ayling has been kidnapped in Italy and is now for sale by Russian mafia? See attachment. I've been sending WIT codes, but people don't know how to open, so I send unprotected now. It will be fucking hot, mate. All our girls are set for auctions only and are being held in Europe. If you wish, we can kidnap a specific target for your needs. That service will be rather expensive, especially for targets outside of Europe. All the details including age, name, nationality and measurements are in the girl's profile. We have a doctor contractor who tests the girls for the sexually transmitted diseases and whether they are pure. Girl is only pure if the profile says so. We do not sell girls who are terminally ill, pregnant, have sexually transmitted diseases or are young mothers. Girls can be transported globally and we have contractors for that for a price. EU delivery is free, but might take time dependent on current location and drop-off point. Collection can be arranged. Auctions normally take place on Sundays and are normally within a week of capture. Merchandise that's sold is sold, so make sure you check the section regularly to indicate interest. Always make sure you are on a genuine Black Death Group website. Girls in our pictures always have our logo. There are a lot of fake copies of our websites attempting to sell cheap girls using porn pictures or displaying no pictures at all. Always double check the email address, as some fakers often hide other symbols like I pretending to be L. We never changed our email addresses. Check contact section. Best practice is to always type email rather than copying. Fake websites ask for payment to take part in the auction. You know that is not the case. And we never charge the deposit for just the auction. We also don't let new people in, only good recommended custom generates profits. In order to take part in an auction, you need to contact us and indicate which girl or girls you're interested in. You will then be provided with the link to the auction. You know the drill, or should this be your first auction, you will have to be able to prove you know someone who previously dealt with us. You will then be briefed about the process. This service is strict for the recommended people only. We do not sell girls to anyone who is not aware of the rules. New people only come, look, ask too many questions and are generally time wasters. Chloe, born in the UK, abducted in Italy, held in Germany, 19 years old, Caucasian, 34 DD 2535, beginner model, starting bid $300,000. Auction takes place July 16, 2017. The Sun quickly forwarded the email to the police. Hours later, both Phil and the police received a new email with a photo of Chloe attached. She was lying on the floor with a sheet of paper pinned to her clothes, and on the paper, there was an image that represented the logo of the Black Death Group. The police had few clues to work with: the emails that needed to be tracked, the studio address, and the photographer's phone number. In fact, when the Milan police investigated the studio address, they found it was just an empty warehouse. The story quickly gained media visibility. The Sun hadn't missed the chance to publish that scoop. However, that was the kidnapper's last information and contact with anyone. As days passed, Chloe's family feared the worst, that she had been auctioned off or was already dead. She was missing for 6 days, until on the 17th, a Monday, she walked into the British consulate in Milan, strangely accompanied by her kidnapper, the photographer, who tried to escape but was caught. Andre Lazio was just a code name. He's actually called Lukasz Herba. But what seemed like the end of a nightmare was actually just the beginning of a series of events that cast doubt on the credibility of the kidnapping. At the police station, she was examined and photographed. She had no bruises, no scratches, and had not been sexually assaulted. Physically, she appeared well and, above all, calm. The only strange thing was the presence of ketamine in her system, a drug known to induce relaxation, or in some cases unconsciousness. During her interrogation, which lasted practically 12 hours, she said that, upon arriving at the studio for the photo shoot, she was attacked by Lukasz, who dominated her, while another masked man appeared from behind and injected her with a substance that made her fall asleep. Minutes later, she woke up in a suitcase, handcuffed and gagged in a moving car. Hours later, the kidnappers arrived at a remote house, which became her prison for the next 6 days. Chloe only had contact with Lukasz, who made no effort to hide his identity. In captivity, Lukasz revealed his real name, said that he was part of the Black Death Group, an organization specializing in human trafficking, and that if a ransom of $300,000 was not paid, she would be auctioned off on the Russian market. He also intimidated her by saying people from the group were everywhere, watching them, and if she tried to escape, someone would certainly find her and take her life before she could ask for any help. Chloe pleaded that her family could not afford to pay that amount, but she gave the names of 3 business people she knew, who together could probably raise the requested amount. Then, scared, she asked them to at least let her look at her son's photos on her cell phone. And at that moment, Lukasz froze. He didn't know that she had a son, and according to the group's rules, young mothers could not be auctioned off. The kidnapper was a little worried because kidnapping needed a profit, whether through ransom or auction, but the auction was now out of the question. He was surprisingly communicative, and she quickly realized she had an opportunity to manipulate him. On the first day, she was chained to a closet in the living room and slept on the floor while her kidnapper slept on the bed. However, the next day she started showing interest in him, about his life, and engaging in conversation. After a few exchanges, it seemed that he was falling under her charm. He then asked to kiss her, and she let him. Afterwards, he asked to have sex with her. She said that was fine, as long as they let her go. In this case, let her go free. As Lukasz couldn't do that, he asked her if she at least wanted to sleep in bed with him. He promised he wouldn't do anything big, and she accepted. From the second day, Chloe began to have some perks in her captivity. Her chain was released, and she began to walk around the house. She said she didn't have the courage to run away because if she was caught, she knew she would die. The other masked kidnapper was always there, and Lukasz let it slip in one of the conversations that he was his brother. Information that was crucial for the future capture of the second suspect. At the same time, Lukasz said he was in contact with her agent and family for the rescue, but they were not complying with his request, but he wasn't actually doing that anymore. After creating a certain intimacy with the kidnapper, she began to seduce him, seeing this as a possibility to escape. She fed an idea into his head that they could be together when she was released. In the last days of confinement, she claimed that Lukasz was completely mesmerized by her. The way she described it, it seemed like a kind of Stockholm syndrome, but in reverse. Instead of the victim falling in love with the kidnapper, it was the other way round. Thus, she convinced him to release her, but there were some conditions. Regarding the ransom, she promised that she would find a way to raise the money so that he could send the money to the group of kidnappers. She asked him to take her personally to the consulate. She would say that she had managed to escape from captivity, that he was her only friend in Milan, and that he was there with her because he welcomed her after her escape. When everything was resolved, she would reconnect with him so that the two of them could truly be together, since in those conditions of captivity with everyone looking for her, it would be impossible. So, feeling confident, he accepted. So they went to the British consulate in Milan, but upon arriving there, she identified him as her kidnapper. Even after this testimony, many questions were still unanswered. How come the two kidnappers who were part of an organised group that researched their victims before the kidnapping, a group that did not auction off young mothers, did they not realise that Chloe had a son? What was the point of emailing the son about the kidnapping when what they needed the most was discretion? How would Łukasz risk his own life, freeing Chloe just out of oaths of love, believing that she would pay the ransom after being free? Why were the names of 3 businessmen given, when Phil Green, the owner of the agency, was already a millionaire who could have raised the amount alone? With Łukasz's statement, the police uncovered more critical information for their investigation. Łukasz Herber, a 30-year-old Polish man who was naturalized as a British citizen, claimed that he had only recently met Chloe. He asserted that the entire kidnapping was a scheme concocted between them to generate money, create national commotion, and gain attention and visibility for Chloe. He revealed that his brother, Michael Herber, had fled upon learning that he planned to return Chloe to the consulate in person. This detail deviated from their original plan. He was detained in custody in Milan, awaiting the conclusion of investigations and the upcoming trial. The police needed to delve deeper into the case and locate his brother to collect his statement as well. Chloe was not arrested, but was kept under police protection for 4 weeks, as the police were still considering 3 possibilities regarding Łukasz. The Black Death organization could be false and a cover-up. He could be lying, and he was just an obsessive kidnapper. Or he could be telling the truth. But even with many believing Chloe's version, the interview she gave in front of her house made some people change their minds. In August 2017, after weeks under police observation, she was allowed to return to England. She had scheduled a press conference in her mother's garden, and the interview she gave was considered by many to be strange. Chloe often posed for photos in a way that highlighted her beauty and the curves of her body. The clothes she wore that day accentuated this even more.
Chloe Ayling is now safely back in Britain after this ordeal, although she did stay for 4 weeks in Italy in the end. She spoke outside her mother's home south of London. She spent today being briefed by UK police and debriefing with the Foreign Office here, but not before posing for photos with local newspaper photographers and speaking to the Italian television press.
I've been through a terrifying experience. I feared for my life second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour. I am incredibly grateful to the Italian and UK authorities for all they have done to secure my safe release.
Given her story, part of the media began to think that the entire incident was really just a publicity stunt for Chloe to gain fame. Headlines on some UK websites started calling it a fake kidnapping, even though it was never proven. She went on several TV shows to reinforce her version, as well as trying to defend herself against the accusations. Meanwhile, the Italian police continued their investigations. Although they found some evidence that somewhat supported her account, other findings were quite bizarre. The house where she was kept in captivity was in a village 2 hours by car from Milan, in the middle of the mountains, in a village on the outskirts of the city. Police found several items, including a handcuff and her personal items, but after an examination at the scene, semen was also found in the bed where she slept. However, she always denied having had any intimate involvement with Łukasz. After a few weeks of investigation, the authorities were sure that the Black Death group never existed, and that it was all just a fantasy story created by Łukasz. The most glaring doubt about Chloe's story arose when police reviewed security camera footage from the week of the kidnapping. The recordings showed both of them strolling through the village near the captivity site, holding hands and even shopping for a new pair of shoes. This meant she had left captivity, not just once, but multiple times. Why hadn't she disclosed this herself? Another thing they discovered was that on the day they both went to the consulate, they had breakfast at the nearby cafe, and according to witnesses, the two were laughing, very happy and completely at ease. Shortly afterwards, Lukasz's brother Michal was found in the United Kingdom and extradited to Italy to give evidence and await trial. His initial testimony confirmed Lukasz's version, but with much more detail, which would become public during the trial hearings. The trial began in June 2018. Lukasz did not bring anything new to the court. His statement repeated words given in statements the previous year. Michal claimed that the entire scheme was orchestrated by them to boost her media visibility. According to him, she was eager to become an international model, but felt her agency was moving too slowly. He also revealed that Lukasz had been somewhat obsessed with Chloe, following her on social media for nearly 2 years and occasionally declaring that they would one day be together. He also stated that his brother arranged the initial meeting under the guise of a photo shoot, but telling her agent that the studio had been robbed was just a ruse. He simply wanted to see her. After meeting in person, still pretending to be a stolen photographer, he invited her to lunch. It was during this meeting, he alleged, that the two devised their plan. He further claimed that the kidnapping was meticulously planned over the next 3 months, inspired by the 2016 film By Any Means, in which a celebrity is kidnapped only for it to be revealed that she was involved all along, life imitating art. He also stated that some of the emails sent to Phil and the Sun were written by Chloe herself. In court, Chloe vehemently denied all accusations, maintaining that she had no involvement in the crime. She argued that just because Lukasz followed her on social media, it didn't mean she knew him personally. While she admitted to having lunch with him in Paris, she insisted she was unaware he was a follower and refuted any claims that they had conspired together. Regarding the drug she actually had in her system, which was confirmed by tests, she said that it was administered by the kidnappers. However, Lukasz and Michal said that there was nothing like that on their part. If any drugs were in her system, she would have done it herself. When confronted with the security camera footage showing her walking freely with Lukasz, she explained that she had lost a shoe during the abduction. He, wanting her to always look presentable, suggested buying a new pair, and she agreed to accompany him to choose the right model and size. She insisted that, at that point, she was already working to make him believe they were a couple. When asked why she hadn't disclosed that she had left captivity multiple times, only addressing it after the footage became public, she simply stated that she had forgotten to mention it. Despite some contradictions, there was no evidence to prove that Chloe was in any way involved in the kidnapping, and even if that were the case, a new trial would have been required, as at that time, only the Herber brothers were being tried. Ultimately, Lukasz and Michal were found guilty of kidnapping, false imprisonment, and extortion, receiving sentences of 16 years and 9 months in prison. However, in a surprising turn of events, their sentences were reduced in March 2021. An appeal overturned the extortion charge, as no actual extortion occurred beyond the initial email. As a result, their sentences were drastically reduced from 16 years and 9 months to just 5 years. A month after the brothers' trial, exactly 1 year after the kidnapping, coincidence or not, on July 11, 2018, Chloe released a book titled Kidnapped: The Untold Story of My Abduction, where she shares her version of the facts and opens up about how she coped with the relentless media scrutiny and public accusations that she had orchestrated her own kidnapping. She maintains that justice never fails, insisting that if she had been involved in any way, authorities would have uncovered the truth by now. However, many remain unconvinced. A growing number of people believe that the Italian justice system failed to thoroughly investigate and prosecute the case. They question how, even after the extortion charge was dropped, a conviction for kidnapping and false imprisonment resulted in a mere 5-year sentence. Some argue that had the case been handled in the UK, Chloe might have at least faced trial as an accomplice. Connor Keyes, Chloe's boyfriend at the time, ended their relationship once the case exploded in the media. When asked about it, he consistently declines to comment. Still in 2017, she posted a message on her social network. "Thank you to everyone who has supported me throughout. I really appreciate the kind messages. Obviously, I have left the agency who got me in that situation by sending me to the fake studio, but I have decided to keep on doing what I love and not give up because of some evil people in the world. Never take life for granted and be safe. The most terrible thing can happen when you least expect it." Despite this, she never sued Phil Green or his agency. For years, Chloe continued to face accusations of deception, with many believing she exploited the kidnapping to her advantage. Whether intentional or not, the international recognition she once sought became a reality. In 2018, she was invited to participate in Celebrity Big Brother, but was eliminated 4th. 4 years later, she returned to Celebrity Big Brother 2022, only to be eliminated 3rd. The brothers became free in 2023. What is your opinion on this case? What do you think really happened? Was Chloe involved in her own kidnapping or not? Share your thoughts in the comments. I will see you in the next case.